This week on Lunchbox Envy, genetically, they are more closely related to humans than to plants.
350 million years ago, they grew 6 meters tall.
And in 2014, hallucinogenic ones were found growing in the gardens of Buckingham Palace.
It's mushrooms. And welcome to Lunchbox Envy. I'm Rosie, I'm a chef and food writer, and I'm here with my QI elves, Jack and Manu. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
We are exploring both mushrooms and truffles.
And beyond. I've got things on all sorts of fungi. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So shall we first talk about what is a mushroom?
It is like a vegetable, a meaningless culinary term. There is no such thing as a mushroom, scientifically speaking.
Just to say, it means something to me.
Yeah.
All right.
It's useful culinarily. Yeah. You wouldn't be like, oh, can I have some of that Bellosporum? Like, you know.
Well, speak for yourself.
I was going to say, Jack.
whatever that word, I don't even know if that's a real word, but like, you know, like.
Today we're basically covering all of the edible species of fungus. Now, the fungi are a separate kingdom. They're neither plants nor animals, and they're very varied. There's millions of species. So we're just looking at this sort of subsection of edible ones. Mushrooms are what we expect as a kind of like a stalk with a cap. And then we'll go into maybe some truffles, which are basically underground mushrooms. But they're the fruiting body because large parts of the fungus are just like what's equivalent of a root system, which is known as the mycorrhizal network. And then they'll stick out fruiting bodies in order to spread spores, much like a fruit in a plant would.
In a kitchen, do you distinguish between truffles as separate from mushrooms?
Yeah, they are stored and treated differently.
And what about morels?
Morels are a bit in the middle. They aren't the same as normal mushrooms.
Huitlacoche?
We don't come across that so much over here.
What is that?
Well, I'll come into it later.
Oh.
It's a specific type of fungus.
It's a cool mushroom.
There are 1.5 million species of mushroom that we've identified.
Wow.
So, and we still think we've only found 1% of them. So it's an enormously broad and varied kingdom of organisms.
And sorry, when you say mushroom, you mean fungi?
Well, yeah, I do mean fungi. But I think, do you expect a mushroom to have a stalk and then a little cap?
I think of mushrooms as things that eat dying or dead other things.
Right.
Like it's
like a lion.
well, not predators so much. What's it called? Like a
scavenger.
A detritivore.
Detritivore.
Oh.
That's because I know that they grow in the sort of forest mush, as it were.
Because we also have toadstools as well. It's another category of, not a real category, but it is something that we use to describe more fungi. So the classical definition is mushrooms are edible.
Okay.
Toadstools
Right.
are poisonous.
Well, have you heard the epithet like all mushrooms are edible, some are only edible once?
This is that's very true.
Well, I'm too scared to forage mushrooms for that very reason.
I think Brits in general are. I think there's definitely a culture in other countries of foraging. When I was living in France, there was just a week in like October, November, and suddenly the forest was full of locals all foraging the mushrooms.
They get really protective of their patches.
Yeah, they do.
One of my friends has a patch that's been passed down through her family.
Sure.
And like it's top secret.
What, they own it? Like
Oh no, it's just like someone in their
They know where it
family
is.
years ago found a really good patch, and it's like
wow.
their family secret.
For which mushrooms, may I ask?
I think chanterelle.
Yeah,
They're
you would
good.
be protective of that. Lovely mushroom of chanterelle.
Yeah, they're already tasty.
I think part of the reason they're much more keen to go foraging is if you go to your local pharmacy, of which there are thousands in France, you see those pharmacy signs everywhere, the local pharmacist has to have some sort of basic level of mushroom knowledge to be able to tell you if your
really?
mushroom's poisonous. Yeah.
That's very useful.
I know.
That sounds
It's
so sensible to me.
Part of qualifying as a pharmacist.
I was reading a paper written in 2021 where they did like a global review of all of the different kinds of edible mushroom, and they found that there were like 2,000 completely edible safe ones, and then 183 on top of those that needed a little bit of extra prep, but there were 471 left that no one has any idea about because people are too scared to try
Yeah.
them. So I'm like, who's going to go for those?
So there really is nothing they can test them on, right? Like not even animals.
Well, not really, no, because some animals can eat mushrooms that are safer.
Metabolize them fine, yeah.
Like squirrels can eat a mushroom called panther caps. They're totally fine. It would cause seizures and hallucinations and even retrograde amnesia in us, which is basically you wouldn't remember anything before you ate the mushroom.
Whoa.
Wow.
But they're fine.
That's like the tool they use in Men in Black.
Oh, yeah. Just get one of these.
But mushrooms just, I mean, botanically, they're so fascinating because, maybe I shouldn't say botanically.
They are separate.
Mycologically, because mycology
Very
is the
nice.
study of fungi. They are fascinating. Like I say, we know about 1% of the species. And I remember learning in A-level biology that animals are made of glycogen, plants are made of cellulose, and mushrooms are also made of glycogen, which is why they're often used as meat replacement because they're basically flesh.
Yeah.
I mean, saying they're basically flesh is a bit of a crowbar, but it's the same chemical. And they also can't photosynthesize like us. So they respire in the same way, like on a micro biochemical level.
Yeah.
They're making energy in the same way that we do. We see them as plants because they grow in soil and they're fixed to the ground.
But yeah, that's exactly why, say, them being more similar to us, they can absorb vitamin D from the sun like we
really?
can. So if you
That's
flip them
cool.
upside down and you put them by the window, quite a lot of mushrooms will store that vitamin D and then you can eat it, which is really good.
Oh, that's really clever.
Yeah. So you don't need to spend all your money on vitamin D supplements. You can just buy a shit ton of
Some
mushrooms.
Yeah.
And speaking of mushrooms and darkness, you can grow mushrooms in the dark, but you don't have to. It's a bit like the rice paddies. Like they're fine with water, but they don't need it. So mushrooms, because they don't photosynthesize,
Yeah.
you don't need to give them light, which means you can grow them in spaces where you can't grow plants, such as caves and cellars, and they'll grow just as well. And then also they can grow during the night as easily as in the day, which is why in the 1800s, Parisians in times of hardship would grow mushrooms in the catacombs under Paris.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is why they're known as champignons de Paris.
Oh, that's so wild.
The scales have been lifted from your eyes.
No, love, they grow so fast. I don't know if you've ever seen a time lapse
All right.
of a mushroom
You
growing.
know that speeded up.
Yes. I remember visiting one of my friend's house. She's a chef and she grows her own shrooms. And I got there one day and they were starting to pop out of the like bag. You get them in a kind of grow bag thing. And that's called popcorning, when the tops are like boop, boop, boop. And then 2 days later, I came back to the room and they were like nearly fully grown oyster mushrooms. They're so quick.
So Beatrix Potter, the author and illustrator of such children's books as Peter Rabbit and Jemima Puddle Duck, Jeremy Fisher, I think the late 19th century, maybe early 20th. She started out as a mycologist. Yeah, she had a published paper on the germination of the spores of the Agaricniae. And I think she wrote a book actually.
She's definitely high all the time.
She
I
was
just
a huge,
realised
and
this.
she would draw such detailed and beautiful pictures of these fungus species that
Yeah.
then she turned her hand to children's writing and she illustrated all of her books. So
Yeah.
the Peter Rabbit that you see every day is an original Beatrix Potter.
All of her delusions that she had whilst
Yeah, that was
Supposedly.
gonna
on
say.
psilocybin. Okay, our first lunchbox today is my lunchbox. I've made a recipe of mine that I love, and it's just a mushroom linguine.
Oh,
You know I can't stay away from a pasta dish. I think mushrooms and pasta go great together. So here you go,
agree.
guys.
Thank
you.
you.
The reason why I wanted to make this is because I tested a theory whilst I made it.
Okay.
Not a theory, it's a fact. It's very much proven. But it's something that for me has taken me a long time to get into my head as a good cooking method for mushrooms. So,
that's fantastic.
It's so good.
oh, good. It'd be rubbish if
I'm
it
going
wasn't.
back in for more.
I have always treated mushrooms the same way, which is that I cook them like I would cook meat. So I was very interested to hear what you said, Jack, about them being made of glycogen, the same as humans, because they do perform way more like meat in culinary terms than they do a vegetable.
Cook your mushrooms like you would cook a human.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever.
Yeah,
In lots of butter.
Yeah.
glycogen is common to all animals. So chicken as well is made of glycogen, and so is beef and lamb.
Yeah.
and, everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So mushrooms, they're also quite high in protein, 3 grams to every 100 grams.
Oh, okay.
And that means that they brown really easily. They're really good browners. I think we all know that the best mushroom flavor is when it's nicely browned in a pan. So my sort of best practice that I had for myself was that I would always cook them in batches because they release a lot of water when they go into the pan, giving them lots of space, high heat, plenty of fat. It's kind of similar to how you would treat a lot of meat, beef in particular. It's almost like a steak, right? What you might have noticed when you cook mushrooms, particularly in oil, but in all fats, is that they absorb all of the fat or a lot of the fat in the pan. You keep having to add oil. You keep being like, what's going on here? Like
The absolute sponges.
they've soaked up all the oil. There is actually a reason for this, and there is a way to get around it. Basically, stems and caps of mushrooms are made up of a network of fibers called hyphae, and they are 80 to 90% water. That tissue contains loads and loads and loads of air pockets, which, when they're raw, oil can collect in those air pockets, right?
Okay.
I watched a video from America's Test Kitchen. He put 100 grams of raw mushrooms in a bowl of vegetable oil. He also put 100 grams of cooked mushrooms, he just bunged them in the microwave, in another bowl of vegetable oil, same amount. The raw mushrooms absorbed 42 grams of the oil.
Whoa.
Wow.
And the cooked mushrooms absorbed 2 grams.
Oh, wow.
So
So cook your mushrooms before you cook them.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you cook?
you might have heard this. This has been sort of like coming up in the chat of the culinary world. It's basically that you should be
Oh, are you in that WhatsApp group?
you should be dry frying your mushrooms. You shouldn't be cooking them in oil at all to begin with.
Goodness.
Whoa.
Get out all of that water, get out all of that air that's in those pockets. And that means that when you then add your fat, they won't absorb it,
Okay, so when
basically.
we say dry frying, just straight in the pan, high heat, nothing.
Nothing. Salt is fine. Salt you can add.
Like you would toast spices.
Kind of how you would toast spices. And it's kind of also how you would cook a really fatty piece of meat, because
Yes,
you'd
of
rely
course.
on the fat from the meat to stop them from sticking and stuff. Now, I've typically avoided doing this because I don't like the sound.
Oh, really?
The squeaky sound of the mushrooms literally makes my skin crawl. Like, I
Does put your
hate
teeth
the
on
sound
edge,
of
doesn't
it.
It's like a blackboard and some nails.
Yeah, feels very antithetical to how I was taught to cook mushrooms. And also, I quite like the greasy mushroom. Can I be
Yeah,
honest?
true.
Like, I haven't got a problem with it. I don't mind if it's a little bit greasy.
It's not.
Is it
Yeah.
because the water escapes when it gets hot and then the fat fills its place?
I think that the cell walls shrink,
Yes, okay,
basically.
got it.
So there's nowhere for it to go.
Yeah.
And something else that's really interesting about mushrooms is the makeup of those cell walls. It's made up of something called chitin.
Oh, yes.
Have you heard of chitin?
Oh, yeah.
Chitin is the same thing that's in the exoskeletons of shellfish and prawns and, crabs, for example. Actually, there's a misconception that humans can't digest chitin. It's not true.
Oh, really?
Like, have you ever eaten a raw mushroom? You'll be fine. But there was a theory for a long time that people were like, you can't eat raw mushrooms, you have to cook them because they've got chitin in. But chitin is really heat stable. You've seen shellfish shells, like they don't really degrade at all during cooking. You'd have to really cook the shit out of them to have a problem with it. It's kind of the same thing with mushrooms. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but it's really hard to overcook a mushroom.
Yeah, that's true. They
The
never go
only really
fluffy.
way you can do it is by cutting them so thin that they dry out so much and become crispy and wrinkled and gross, or literally burn them.
Yeah.
It's quite hard to
That's a
overcook them.
good point. I never thought about that.
Yeah, in fact, in the same America's Test Kitchen video, he did an experiment where he steamed a piece of courgette, a piece of fillet steak, and a piece of mushroom in the same steamer for 45 minutes. At the end, the beef, extremely overcooked, extremely tough, rubbery, not pleasant at all. The courgette, it's the opposite.
Mush.
It's so mushy and soft. The mushroom, 10 out of 10. You wouldn't have noticed if it had been there for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 45 minutes.
Goodness.
And obviously, like, you know, there is a limit. But they are actually pretty robust because of all of this chitin in their cell walls.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And that's taking me back to my meat theory. I tried today where I basically dry fried the mushrooms and I put like my fingers in my ears and just got on with it. And it has come out really great. Like they're lovely caramelization. You can taste the butter. You can sort of like sense that there's fat in this, but it's not oozing out of the mushroom every time I bite into it. And yeah, I think the dry sear, unfortunately, as much as I dislike it, is the way to go.
But it does depend on priorities. Like there's often this best practice, but that's in order to have your mushrooms taste, I don't know, like a restaurant or something. But you're right, there's a joy to a greasy, soggy mushroom.
Yeah.
And if that's how you want to do it and it saves time and effort, then go for it.
You know, in like Greasy Spoon calves, they just deep fry the mushrooms.
Do they?
That's why they have such even colour on the sausages and the
also they're
mushrooms.
kinda
They just
like
bung them in the deep fryer.
Weird and wrinkly as well.
Yeah,
Like,
not always.
It's not the best mushroom.
It's not always my favourite.
No.
Anyway, so there's another myth I wanted to bust. Well, I guess I wasn't busting myths necessarily before, but I'm going to do one now. The myth is you can't wash mushrooms.
The reason you can't wash mushrooms is supposedly they absorb all the water and they get very mushy.
Yeah, you can wash mushrooms. Obviously, you can't wash them like you wash up a plate. Like, that's ridiculous. But you can put water on mushrooms. They are porous. They will absorb water. And they also contain loads of water. We know that. They will absorb some water. But it shouldn't really create more than a minute's more worth of cooking than you actually think. The thing you should avoid doing is washing them and then storing them when they haven't been
they're a bit
cooked,
wet.
when they're wet, because that will encourage spoilage. What you should be doing is washing your mushrooms just before you cook with them. And listen, it's not necessary to wash all mushrooms. Certainly the ones in the supermarket are pretty good. I just tend to give them a wipe with a bit of kitchen towel. The mushrooms that you might have to wash are wild mushrooms that have been foraged.
Of course, yeah.
In the restaurant that I used to work in, we had a thing where we basically set up 3 massive bowls of water and we dunk the mushrooms in one bowl and then into another bowl. So they were going repeatedly into cleaner water each time. And then we dry them out for a bit and then cook with them. And that worked really well. Like,
You wouldn't want to be the last mushroom to get dunked. Doesn't sound
true.
fun.
no.
But you can get the like the foraging knives are super cool because
Yeah.
they'll have like
they've
a
got a little
blade.
curve.
Yeah, and then on the other end, some of them have a brush.
Yeah, brushing them. Oh, it's so satisfying.
Oh, I love it.
Manny basically carries a knife with her at all times.
It's just like a little Swiss Army knife.
Oh, I
It's
love
so
those
useful.
knives. Yeah.
They're so
Does
good.
it have a brush function?
Not yet.
And then the other thing just to note is that if you're storing mushrooms, try and avoid plastic because plastic doesn't allow any moisture to escape.
Yes, it retains
So
moisture.
you're best off in a brown paper bag with some kitchen towel.
Yeah, your mushrooms will
Or
sweat.
even like on a tray with some kitchen
Well,
towel.
this is, I guess, why when you're foraging, you have the cute little basket. Like, it's not just
Yeah.
plastic. Oh, and another thing about the basket, which I love so much, is it's so that the mushrooms can drop spores along the way. So
that's
you're
clever.
foraging them,
That
and
is
then you're like
clever.
resporing the earth
Yeah.
as you're going along.
Spores are the mushroom equivalent of seeds, aren't they? Yeah.
And the only other thing I wanted to talk about was probably my favourite thing about mushrooms of all, which is that they communicate with each other.
Ooh. Is it the scream as you're cooking them?
That's what the squeaky thing is. It's like,
No. So mathematical analysis of the electrical signals that fungi seemingly send to one another has identified patterns that bear a pretty striking resemblance to human speech.
wow.
It's not conclusive that it is similar to speech, but it is really, really, really like similar.
Sure. I've often held the theory that like plants communicate through smells, right? So when you're chopping parsley, is that not the scream of parsley?
Yeah.
God, that's so morbid.
No, so I
Well,
think
kind
it's
of.
like with grass as well. When you mow your lawn, it's releasing smells that's like, oh my God, guys, grow, we're dying.
Attack, yeah. So Professor Andrew Adamatsky at UWE, west of England,
Oi, oi.
Bristol, he analysed patterns of electrical spikes generated by four
Sorry,
series of fungi.
This is the most Bristol research you could have. If you haven't been to Bristol, there's
They
a
love
lot
mushrooms over in Bristol.
Maybe mushroom shots, so good.
So anyway, he analysed the patterns of electrical spikes generated by four species of fungi: enoki, which you will have eaten before, split gill, ghost, and caterpillar fungi. And basically, the research found that these spikes often clustered into trains of activity, resembling vocabularies of up to 50 words.
Wow.
And the distribution of these fungal word lengths closely matched like human languages, basically.
Wow.
It's just kind of like insane to think that they are potentially conversing.
Yeah.
We already knew that there was some kind of form of like telepathy almost in these organisms,
Sure, yeah.
but now it seems like they're actually genuinely having a chat.
Wonder what they're talking about.
Well,
Amazing to imagine,
Yeah.
like parallel world under the soil
Where we're all-
where they've like invented podcasts, and there's like Mushroom Manu, Mushroom Rosie, and Mushroom Jack. We're all sitting around talking about how weird humans are.
and I actually first heard about this not from this very informative study, but because my mum had read a book, Entangled Life.
Entangled Life by Merlin Sheldrake.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful book.
Apparently it's great.
Yeah, it's really eye-opening. He's like sort of dives into the science behind mushrooms and how much and how little we know about them. And he describes like mycelial networks trading nutrients with plants and suffocating nematode worms that they've attracted with their roots, and like the power of psilocybin as a treatment for all sorts of things, and
PTSD and
but he
anxiety.
weaves it in with quite a poetic sense of like, certainly the truffles chapter was fascinating, sort of
Well, my
quite
mum,
sexy actually.
my mum said it was like one of the most inspiring things she's ever read,
Really?
and that
Yeah.
she was really like moved by it. And now whenever we go on walks, she hugs trees.
Oh, I love
Love that. Okay, it's time for our second lunchbox, and that is from you, Jack.
Okay, this week I've brought a truffle for us to try.
Oh, luxurious.
This is known as a summer truffle. The budget wouldn't stretch to a black Perigord truffle,
A fresh truffle, basically.
nor would it stretch to even more expensive white Alba truffle. Those go for thousands of pounds if they're at all sizable.
What is everyone's, how do we feel
I
about
will
truffles?
ask you about what you know about truffles, what you think about truffles.
It doesn't make a dish like immediately better. I feel there's a few places that just use them to make stuff more expensive.
Okay.
They're kind of the caviar of the fungal world, right? They are
They're a
expensive, acquired taste.
Yeah.
And they are used in a way that is not necessarily as cool as you think it is. That's my feeling about them.
Or like gold leaf is another one.
Yeah.
So the 101 on truffles, they are the fruiting body of a number of species, but uniquely, truffles are hypogeous, so they grow underground, whereas most of the mushrooms we eat, like seps and chanterelles and button, they're epigeous, so they grow above ground. So what's interesting about that is that they still, because of the fruiting body, they still have to spread spores, which are basically mushroom seeds. And so given that they can't be above ground, they can't get their spores away on the wind, they can't rely on animals to see them and come and eat them and then deposit spores in the feces. So they've developed an incredible smell. And it's competing with the cacophony of a forest, which is full of smells. And they basically just have to be as pungent as possible and hopefully as attractive as possible. And the means of evolution mean that the less attractive smelling ones don't spread their spores, which has meant that they are still an acquired taste. And actually, a lot of truffles smell pretty revolting. Pretty much all of the 1,000 or so North American truffles are not nice. Like they smell of baby diarrhea or sewage pipes. And in fact, they did some research and found that one of the main smelly compounds is androstenol, which is found in the sex hormone of pigs.
Well, I remember going on holidays to Umbria in central Italy. Umbria and Tuscany are probably two of the most truffle heavy parts of Italy that you can go to. And there would be shops with like wild boar heads all over them. They sell a lot of wild boar and a lot of fresh and dried and, you know, cured truffle. And it stunk. It absolutely stunk. And I was like, you know, a kid, and I was like, what is wrong with everyone? Like, why don't you like the smell of these shops? Like, the truffles stink, the boar heads stink. Like, where am I?
Yeah.
Now I'm a bit more grown up, I understand.
But truffles grow in symbiosis with trees, so their mycorrhizome is always transferring nutrients with the trees, which is why you find them in forests. And also why we can't successfully farm them. Like, it has happened on occasion, but it's a bit of guesswork is involved because there's so many different factors that we don't yet understand, which is partly why they're expensive, because you have to forage for them and they're not visible above ground, which means you often employ animals to be trained to hunt them down. And typically it would be pigs, and we think maybe it's something to do with the fact that they're producing pig sex hormone. But the trouble with pigs is they love them, so they'll just eat them when they find them. So typically you would, in the Victorian times, you would give them a muzzle so they couldn't eat them. But you can also use dogs who don't often like to eat them, and they're much easier to train.
It's a specific breed as well.
But trufficulture used to be big. In France, in the last 150 years, the yields of France's trufficulturalists has gone down 99%.
Whoa.
Wow.
Like, we're making 1% of what we used to. And that's partly because the local sort of folk knowledge on where best to grow truffles and find truffles has died, because people have moved to the cities and there have been numerous wars, and basically just that knowledge is lost, which has kind of led to the increase in the price. But, you know, they used to be a pretty common delicacy.
Yeah, because like there's lots of French dishes where they like stuff a whole chicken skin with like truffle slices all the way up and down it, and it looks amazing, and it tastes probably, you know, if you like truffles, amazing. But that was that would have cost a pretty penny.
Yeah. I was going to say, why do we call them chocolate truffles?
That's purely just a visual thing. So they're like small, quite round, but also quite knobbly and brown.
I
Similar
see.
size.
But it's interesting because they must have been ubiquitous enough for people to think that's a good name for this.
Exactly, yeah.
We know what truffles are. But now I would bet you that lots of people wouldn't know what a truffle looked like.
No.
Because also the products that we've come across on mainstream shelves are actually never close to the real thing. They're truffle oils, they're truffle pastes, they're truffle butters.
Yes, because truffle, the flavour of truffle doesn't dissolve in oil. So if you find truffle oil, it's been basically infused with the compound 2,4-dithiapentane, which is basically, you can isolate it in a laboratory.
Yeah.
So it's the same stuff, but it's obviously not come from a truffle.
No.
So you know, you make your own call as to whether that's authentic or not. But it usually contains like a microscopic amount of truffle, so they can put truffle on the label
Yeah.
of ingredients.
We were always taught in the kitchen, if you had fresh truffles, that you stored them in something porous. So risotto rice was usually the thing that we would store them in, because the
Really?
rice would soak up
Absorb some of the
any
smells.
residual moisture, stop them from spoiling. The other thing we would do is we would put truffles in boxes of eggs, because eggshells are porous. So they would soak up some of the truffle fragrance, and then you could make really amazing truffled scrambled eggs without actually having to use as much truffle, because they'd soaked up all the flavor.
So cool.
Yeah, it's quite a clever thing. Listen, like, I'm never gonna like seek out truffle. I love like white truffle and good black truffle are amazing. Every now and again, if they're fresh in front of you, but I'm never gonna pay for it. I'm such a cheapskate. I'm not gonna be like, yeah, I'll have that extra 24 quid on that butter pasta. Thank you.
But I would like to experience that one day, because people do talk about the incredible heady aroma, which I must say these cheap ones don't really have.
Yeah. I think a good truffle for me is almost garlicky. Like it's so rounded and umami, the flavor. But there are lots of restaurants in Italy, and there's a couple that do this in London, for example, where you can bring your own truffle.
Really?
So you just ring up the restaurant and you say, got a truffle, I'd love to come in and have a risotto. Would you cook me a risotto with my truffle?
Amazing.
Bocca di Lupo in central London will do this for you. You pay like a truffleage, almost like corkage when you bring in your own wine. You pay a little surcharge for them to cook with your truffle. You might generously give the rest of it to the restaurant so that they can use it. And, you know, it depends how good a customer you are.
So I've sliced this one into 3. Should we give it a try?
Let's do it.
the tiniest bit just like almost takes your head off, doesn't it? It's
yeah.
just like so strong.
Fragrant AF. Their name in Castilian Spanish is Turmas de Tierra, earth testicles.
Oh, wow.
They do look a bit like that.
I was going to say there's something wrong with you there if your testicles look like that.
Oh,
These ones are tiny and black.
I better see a doctor. There's also a theory that they're the original manna from heaven.
Oh, yeah.
Because when the Jews were going through the desert in the Bible, they'd been expelled from Egypt. They were hungry and thirsty, and there was a thunderstorm. And supposedly, this nitrogen in the air brings out the desert truffles, because there are such things as desert truffles. And so they would have seen these sort of truffles lying around and realised that they were edible and delicious, and not knowing where they're from, and assumed they'd come from heaven.
Whoa.
Wow.
It's just a theory.
Just before we leave gross mushroom flavors, sorry to dick on your truffle.
Dick on my truffle whenever you like, Manny.
Have you heard of the flaccid penis mushroom?
No, what does that look like?
So good. So it's a mushroom called the Phallus druesi, which was discovered in 2009 off the west coast of Africa, and it was named after the curator of herpetology at the California Academy of Sciences, who's called Robert Drews, and he was the one that encouraged these scientists to go out and look for new species. And it is like so phallic and quite droopy, and apparently it smells like rotting fish.
Oh, God.
And people
Would you not be really upset if that was you?
know.
Sorry, but like poor old Robert Drews. That's the worst mushroom I can think of.
You know what?
To be named after.
So people asked him about this. They're like, how do you feel? Are you okay? And he
Really?
is like, yeah, I'm not that fussed. It's really nice having something named after me. He's also got 2 other things named after him, which include a moss frog and a blind worm snake.
Okay.
So,
Still
yeah.
though, like fishy flaccid penis mushroom isn't probably up there in top 10 things you'd want referring back to you.
But we are talking about him though.
Yeah, that's true.
There we go.
Druzy,
What
you're
have you-
in.
what have you got
Friend of the
named after
pod
you?
from now.
Speaking of phallic mushrooms, have you heard of the stinkhorn?
Oh no.
Also looks very phallic. Charles Darwin's niece, Gwen Ravarat, which is a great name. She recorded how her aunt Etty would set off in her hunting cloak and go around woods and sniff out these stinkhorns and rush them home and secretly burn them in the drawing room so that she wouldn't ruin the morals of the maidens walking around the forest. 'Cause
Well,
they do look
surely
like
they
penises.
wouldn't have known what a penis looked like
Well,
anyway.
exactly. That's,
So it wouldn't have been a problem.
That's a good point.
If they were behaving themselves, it doesnn't matter.
Another interesting mushroom, the jack-o'-lantern mushroom, which glows in the dark.
Oh, sick.
It gives off a greenish light known as foxfire.
Ooh.
The fungal filaments also spread into diseased wood. It's called touchwood.
It's like glowing trees.
Yeah, glowing trees.
That's so
It glows
cool.
brightly for 1 or 2 weeks.
Nice.
In fact, World War I soldiers would tuck some into their helmets to stop them bumping into each other at night.
That's cute.
Yeah.
I think that's the only story from World War One.
Yeah,
I've been
that's
like,
actually quite
"Aw."
cute.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
that's true. I have some funny words for North American mushrooms. I mentioned stinkhorns, witch's butter, turkey tails, yuck on a stick,
Nice.
yellow wart, and shaggy mane.
These sound
Oh.
genuinely like adult film titles.
Yuck on a stick.
Yeah, it's like a pub quiz round, font or cheese, or porn film or mushroom.
Oh, it's so good.
Have you ever tried hen of the woods mushroom?
Oh, chicken of the woods. I've
of the
always
woods.
wanted to.
I had a burger in the Spread
I
Eagle,
was gonna say.
London's oldest vegan pub.
Hen of the woods or chicken of the woods mushroom is a mushroom that's kind of like, firstly, it does look a bit like a chicken's ass, like it's sort of plumed weirdly. But it is actually super similar to chicken when it's cooked.
Yeah,
It
really
tastes
umami.
meaty and has a very similar texture, like the strands of the proteins in the meat and the mushroom. They're really quite close to each other, which is why it is called hen of the woods.
Oh,
A great little vegan substitute for chicken.
they're quite spinning, aren't they?
They are, because they're foraged
Yeah.
and seasonal.
Can't farm them.
The other one I have never tried, I'm too scared to try, is puffball.
Oh,
Because I've heard puffball can make you ill. And puffballs are another easily foraged mushrooms. And again, all over the West Country.
they are fascinating. I did some deep dives into puffballs. So firstly, they can be 40 inches in diameter. So what's that? 100 centimeters.
Wow.
A full meter. and 25 kilos.
That's kind of like the size of this table.
Yeah. Fields of puffballs get mistaken for grazing sheep sometimes.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so
I think if you're, driving past. But they produce 7 trillion spores over their lifetime.
Whoa.
But they're lucky if even one of them grows to maturity. So it's a
Really?
really bad hit rate. In fact, if they all managed to, I did some maths, in 2 generations, they would create puffballs 800 times the volume of the Earth.
Whoa.
That's lucky that they don't then. I'm a bit scared now.
Yeah. So
Puffball invasion.
7 trillion to 1, they're your chances of growing to maturity as a
It
puffball.
would be a bouncy world, though. I quite like it.
And a direct hit from a raindrop sends 1 million spores into the air at 1 meter per second. The giant ones actually belong to the Calvatia group, which roughly translates as baldy, because they do look like basically bald men's heads.
They look like Uncle Fester's head from Adam's Family.
Yeah, that's exactly it. But then there was a reordering of fungal taxonomy quite recently, and they moved from that group to the genus Lycoperdon, which means wolf fart.
It sounds like a virgin.
Lycoperdon.
Puffed for the
Puffed for the very first time.
Let's dive into our third and final lunchbox, and that's yours, Manu. What have you got? It looks like a pot of forest floor.
It is a pot of forest floor.
Oh, okay. Are we going to have to eat it?
No,
Okay,
thankfully no. So today I have bought something that is meant to represent human compost.
Oh, but it's not actually.
No, it's definitely not. This is supposed to represent human remains that have been purified by mushrooms.
Okay.
So, like we've already discussed, mushrooms are detritivores, so they break down organic matter. And one of the things some of them do is to purify it, so to detoxify what they're breaking down.
Right.
And when we die, like humans are full of shit. Like we're really bad for the planet. When we degrade, we can carry up to like 200 dangerous chemicals that we accumulate over the years. So stuff like plastics, like phtalates.
Yeah, I was going to say that's not even including the microplastics from my beaded body wash.
Phthalates are hormone disruptors, so they're bad for us when we're alive. They're bad for the grounds when we die. There's also something called BPA, bisphenol A, that lines tin cans and gives the food in it a slightly longer shelf life. But that's also a hormone disruptor, bad for the planet. Then you got stuff like mercury in fillings.
Not anymore, but historically.
But, back in the day.
Old people have them,
Yeah, so if you're cremated, it releases mercury into the atmosphere. So a few years ago, about 2,250 kilograms of mercury was being released into the atmosphere every year through cremation. And it's even worse if you've been embalmed. So I don't know if you guys know a lot about embalming.
I don't know a lot about it, but I know that it's really bad for the environment.
It's super bad. So classically, they pump your body full of formaldehyde, which is a carcinogen, and it can give funeral workers cancer and lung issues. It's like super messed up chemicals. All of this stuff happens to dead bodies because we're, for some reason, really scared of decaying and dying. And it's a whole...
There being no trace of us. I think we want a legacy, don't we?
So it's something that's been called death denial, like kind of having a culture that's really not comfortable talking or thinking about death. In 2011, this really cool artist and I'd argue scientist called J. Rim Lee put out an incredible TED Talk. If you have the time to watch it, do. Cool. But it's all about her mushroom burial suit. It is so cool. I'm pretty sure I've spoken.
Is she wearing it?
Yeah, she's wearing it. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so cool.
So what, she's made a suit which is made of mushrooms that she can be buried in to turn her back into the earth?
Basically, yeah. So it's a suit that's kind of crocheted with a porous fabric, and it's impregnated with mushroom spores that, in theory, will digest her body and like purify all of the toxins. So that the stuff that she's releasing back into the ground is like
so
friendly.
clever.
It's so
No more
cool.
mercury.
New burial preference unlocked.
Yeah, so
Make note in phone.
It honestly,
Mushroom suit.
it's so cool.
It looks pretty natty as well. Doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it's mad. So her company's called Coeo. She calls it her infinity burial suit. And she, over the years, has been training mushrooms to digest her.
Oh my
basically.
gosh.
So
Wow.
she'll feed the mushrooms like bits of her fingernail cuttings, bits of her hair, like her dead skin, and she
Wow.
picks the ones that are best at breaking her down. So she's created like a kind of infinity human eating mushroom strain.
I smell a sci-fi film where this sort of breaks out of the lab and starts eating. Like,
I don't know. I mean, I think it's
But, like-
yeah. Well, I just think it's clever. Like, and I like the idea of being sort of given back to the earth
I
in a
agree.
functionally beneficial way, rather than
what happens
other
when the
thing.
mushroom's finished eating her? It's going to turn to someone else.
maybe it'll be full.
I mean, quite a few people have already donated their bodies to the company
Okay,
so
yeah.
that they can test this out. And there are other companies that are practicing something called human composting, which is you can use like in tandem with a mushroom soup, but it's basically like you put your body in a compost bin. It's not a bin, it's like a little pod thing, and then what comes out is just soil that you can put on your garden.
Wow. But you can't put it on your garden because you are the compost. But your relatives
I
can.
am the compost.
Death
but
comes to us all.
this is true. But these
Memento morale.
well done.
Jesus Christ!
Just whilst we're talking about like kind of death, spirituality, wavy mushrooms, have you heard of the theory that Jesus was a mushroom?
Sorry, Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
No, this is such a manny statement. Go on. I'm sure you've got a justification for it.
In the 1970s, there was a really well-respected philologist, so someone that studies the history of languages and the structure of languages,
yeah.
and archaeologist called John Marco Allegro. And he published a book called The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross, a study of the nature and the origins of Christianity within the fertility cults and ancient Near East.
Okay, I'm with you.
It's a mad title. Basically, he was one of the first British academics to work on the Dead Sea Scrolls, which were like ancient Jewish manuscripts. And his whole thing was going through like the Old and New Testaments and looking at the meanings of certain words and stuff.
Okay.
And what he got from all of his studies was that Jesus was a mushroom, like a magic mushroom, and the disciples and the people who were writing the New Testament were all just tripping on mushrooms.
Okay, he was like, Jesus became the sort of anthropomorphization of their trips.
Yeah.
Is it kind of like Mary Jane being the slang word for marijuana?
Yeah, kind of. I'm not saying Jesus is a mushroom. I'm just saying
Yeah,
that there
it's a
was a
theory.
guy
He
in the
could have been
70s.
a mushroom.
He could have been a
Allegedly.
mushroom.
It doesn't really make the ideas of Christianity any less valid if it's just come from a mushroom or whether it's come from a divine being. I don't think.
It really does explain a bit more about why that painting of the Last Supper is so weird.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
That's it for this week's edition of Lunchbox Envy. You can follow our socials for foodie facts and podcast updates. We are on X, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Lunchbox Envy Pod.
Yes, and you can also get in touch and send us your facts, recipes, and questions by emailing us lunchbox@qi.com.
So, Rosie, do you have any favourite mushroom recipes for us today?
Well, in my book, Good Time Cooking, the recipe for this mushroom linguine, which is actually really with tagliatelle, is in there.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great recipe. It's super easy and it doesn't have that many ingredients. And I think you'd all really like it.
I ate 2 bowls worth today.
I was super
Listen,
impressed, Jack. Well done.
We will see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Lunchbox Envy was hosted by Jack Chambers, Manu Oreo, and me, Rosie McKean. It was mixed by Liang Lee, and it was produced by Alex Bell. This has been a quite interesting podcast.